Michael Burbidge from the Diocese of Arlington, Virginia, is releasing a statement for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, writing in part, quote, "In his courageous fight against racism and bigotry, Dr. King relied upon faith and prayer. Hope and transformative love were central to his message as he reminded us hate is too great a burden to bear." While celebrations across the country may have a different look amid the pandemic, observances honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. still give us, as a nation, an opportunity to pay tribute to his enduring legacy. Joining me now on Skype to help us do just that is Alveda King, the niece of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She is also Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn for Priests for Life. Alveda, welcome back. Always great to speak with you.
It's always
what comes
good
to
be with
your
you,
mind as you think about?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Alveda. What comes to your mind as you think about your uncle and his place in history?
When I remember my uncle during the Martin Luther King holiday week, I think about his messages of faith, hope, and love. Part of the King family legacy, the very most famous part of our most famous family member, Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And all of his life, he exemplified solutions that were nonviolent and Bible-based. So I remember Uncle ML, his sermons, his speeches, and the way he lived his life.
I know that faith played such a fundamental role. Can we talk about that a little bit more, its influence, especially in his calls for mutual respect for one another?
One of my uncle's quotes, he spoke about faith, and it's like climbing a staircase. You take one step at a time and the faith builds. And so he was very sure that if he continued to trust in the Lord and to have faith and hope and love, then he could carry a message that God had given him to carry. So my uncle was a nonviolent man. He believed that we were one human race, Acts 17:26, of one blood. God made all people to live together on the face of the earth. And as one human race, we really could learn to live together as brothers and sisters and not perish together as fools. All of his sermons and his messages led us to understand that our answers would come from God and that we must unite and learn to get along.
Such a beautiful message. As we know, in his honor, many Americans celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday by performing acts of service. How important is that in creating positive change?
I believe that as we serve others, then God's love shines out through us. And when we serve others, then that makes opportunities for others to work with us as well. And so that's the way that he was raised. And, you know, he said he had decided to stick with love. Hate is too difficult a burden to bear. And then we bear each other's burdens and concerns, seeing each other as human beings regardless of skin color. We could see skin color, of course. We really are not colorblind. We could see. But we should see ethnicity as something to be celebrated, not to be fought over.
We don't have a lot of time left, maybe about a minute or so, but I do want to ask you this before I let you go. What would you like Americans to think about as they reflect on your uncle and his legacy?
Martin Luther King Jr. lived a life of service and love. He was a family man, much beloved by all of his family. He loved his parishioners. He was a Baptist preacher. So I believe if he were here today, he would be praying for us and with us, and encouraging us to set aside strife and to come together in love. And as we do that, we can surely be blessed. And 2021 will be a very different year than 2020 turned out to be.
All right, well, Alveda King, thank you so much for your time today. We always appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much.
Executive Director of Priest for Life, and welcome to our program. And as you just saw, that was a great clip of Alveda King, Evangelist Alveda King, that was shown on EWTN Nightly News the other day. And of course, today is Martin Luther King's birthday, the national holiday. Well, joining me right now for a discussion is, of course, Alveda King. She's a pastoral associate here at Priest for Life. And she heads up our Civil Rights for the Unborn, and you can check that out at civilrightsfortheunborn.com. So, Alveda, welcome to the program.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Jan. It is great to join you.
Oh, glad to have you. So I'm going to ask you maybe some questions that some of those other reporters and all these interviews you do today maybe don't ask, okay? So when Martin Luther King's birthday became a national holiday for the very first time, when it was first announced, like, what was the initial reaction from you and the family? Like, did you know ahead of time? Was there some kind of effort to make it happen? Or did it just happen and then you said, oh my gosh, like, how did that all happen?
I was a state legislator, House District 28 in Georgia, Atlanta, downtown Atlanta during the time, and I co-authored the Martin Luther King holiday bill in Georgia with Hosea Williams and some others. And at that time, the bill had to be passed state by state. And we were one of the states. I remember when we introduced that bill, Janet, that we took it, it was passed out on the floor of the House. Many of the House members of the House balled the bill up, threw it in the spittoons, and spit tobacco on it. So I was young and beautiful and very impressionable. I was a feisty state legislator, so I went in the speaker's office and cried like a baby. Oh, he said, Miss Alveda, if you stop crying, I'll let it out of committee. So the bill came out of committee. It did pass in Georgia and several states. I think President Reagan might have signed it in '83. I remember going to the White House with my aunt Coretta Scott King and members of our family. So I was very active in getting that bill passed. And interestingly enough, all these years later, when President Trump signed into law on Air Force One, the Martin Luther King Historical Park that had been sponsored by Congressman John Lewis and others, I was there. So I've been involved in the Martin Luther King holiday scenarios for many, many, many years.
Right. Well, of course, I've been to the celebrations with you and your family in Atlanta. Of course, we know this year, because of the COVID pandemic, the celebration has taken a totally different look. But ordinarily, I think kind of like the family kind of splits up, right? Who goes here and who goes there. But there in Atlanta, there's always a big celebration at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. And people should understand, first of all, there's two churches there. There's the big new tabernacle across the street, but the original Ebenezer Church is kind of small across the street, right?
Right. And so the small church is a historic site. It belongs to the Park Service now. And then the Horizons Church across the street is the largest sanctuary. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So the very first year that we had the holiday, can you remember, like, what did you guys do? Well, how did the very first King celebration holiday look?
Well, it was very similar to what it has become throughout the years. It was at the church. Many people were there, many speakers. That was not uncommon. Of course, Aunt Coretta was still there during that time, and even my cousin Yolanda King, and it was the Cultural Affairs Department and all of that. So it was very similar to what it is today. It's only different this year. Is virtual, and my mother actually did go, and I stayed at home and watched it on TV and did interviews and things, because only 50 people could go into the whole sanctuary because of COVID regulations, and that included the crew, the speakers, the security. So it was different, but the holiday has been the same every year, year after year. Many, many speakers, and in the church setting, beautiful music. Young people, children, always a highlighted feature there.
Right. I always remember too being there and singing the anthem.
We shall overcome.
No, the one Lift Every Voice.
No, it's We Shall Overcome. We shall overcome. Hallelujah. So those are the two that they have Lift Every Voice and Sing too in different versions, instrumental or something, some years.
Right. Yeah. Now we just had a question from Khalib. And his question is how he did live each day, and he regarded his family, his Bible teachings, and personal convictions always the same, or did he change over time? In other words, your uncle, and also your daddy, A.D. King, they're asking, like, from the very early days of the civil rights movement, they had their convictions and all that. Did it carry through always, or was there any kind of change, is what they want to know.
In the 1950s, Martin Luther King Jr. and my dad, A.D. King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and my dad, Reverend A.D. King, became Baptist preachers. And they were co-pastors with their dad. Sometimes they traveled all over the country speaking and preaching together. Now, as a young man, as a student, Martin Luther King Jr. studied everything, socialism and all of this. He traveled here and there. He questioned and challenged Christianity in college, and that does happen in college. I did too. Many people, you learn all these various philosophies in college. However, in the mid-50s, my uncle, after Mrs. Rosa Parks decided not to give up her seat on the bus and all of that, the movement began in earnest. And Martin Luther King Jr. had a knock at midnight, a religious experience, a Christian experience with God. And at his kitchen table in Montgomery, he said he heard the voice of Jesus say, Martin Luther, stand up for truth, stand up for justice, and lo, I will never leave you. So from that day forward, any of his other thinking and all of that, he began to live earnestly for the Lord, and he did that until he died. So many people, they will say, oh, Martin Luther King was a communist. Martin Luther King was a socialist. Well, when he was in college, he was exploring all of that, but he committed his life to the Lord, and he became a different person.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and then I just want to say a word about your mom, Miss Naomi. Now, tell everybody, I'm amazed that she went down to the church today for the ceremony, because I know your mom's hasn't been well this winter so far. Right. She's battled a little pneumonia here and there and other struggles. Tell everyone a little bit about your mom. How old is she now?
Mother is 89, and she went with Dr. Babs Anabanjo, who is the president. Mother's the co-founder of the A.D. King Foundation. And so they represented the A.D. King family at the event today. So she's still out. She's not even back home yet. I don't know. They probably went to pick up something to eat.
Yeah. Now, I want people also to understand, while Martin Luther King, your uncle, is the person that all the highways are named at, all buildings are named after, and this is the name of the holiday. It's his birthday, But your dad, those two brothers, they were like peas and carrots, always together. And from what I understand, I want you to clarify this for our viewers. I think your dad, basically they decided, the two brothers got together and say, listen, we've got this whole Southern Christian, leadership coalition that we're forming, and we're going to be in a battle here, not a physical battle, but I'm saying, the peaceful demonstrating and all this. And from what I understand, they made an agreement that Martin would do the preaching, and your daddy, even though he was also a good preacher, he would be the front team with some of the other guys, and they would go to the next city and get everything prepared. Is that good? Is that correct?
In a way, they were such brothers in the struggle, nicknamed the Sons of Thunder, like James and John in the Bible. And so Daddy actually in Kentucky founded the Kentucky Christian Leadership Conference. And his brother, Uncle Emil, had already founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So Daddy was almost like the Kennedy brothers. You had John Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. So the brothers just working at what they did well. And Daddy and my uncle in the 50s actually used to preach together. They would go and do revivals and things together. So God anointed and appointed Martin Luther King Jr. like Moses. So it wasn't that the brothers decided. The Lord knew exactly what he wanted both of them to do. So they were like really, really close. So it was like Moses and then Aaron. So Daddy would have been more like Aaron, and then Uncle Emil more like, they actually called Uncle Emil the Black Moses.
Ah, look at that. Well, I'm going to invite any of our viewers right now. If you have a question for Miss Alveda, now's your chance. This is your chance to ask questions that they're not going to maybe do when she's on Fox or these other shows. So this is the chance. And while I'm waiting for the next, here's another question. David Torres wants to know, what your uncle could have been thinking on what's going on right now. Oh, okay. What would MLK and your daddy say about what's happening here in America now?
You know, the good thing about famous people, they write books sometimes. And when they write books, you could just open the book. Same thing with Father Frank's books. You could go find his books or Janet's books. We have books. So all you have to do is read his books or listen to his sermons. And for instance, he said the Negro cannot win if he's willing to sacrifice the futures of his children for immediate personal comfort and safety. Now, that's exactly what abortion does, which lets you know that he would not have supported abortion. He also said when you value the human personality, you won't kill anybody. So he would not be for violence. So sometimes people will take his quotes and switch them around and try to make them fit something else they want to do. People do that with the Bible as well. But if you read his words in context, you would see. And then he said, we must learn to live together as brothers. And I added sisters or perish together as fools. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So those are his own words, and you can go by his words, and he would not have changed. He was like that till he died. From the day he committed in a knock at midnight to the day he died, that's where you follow. As a young man, he's out looking and searching and trying to find answers. But once he found out what God wanted him to do, he did it.
He did it, right? Well, we have another question, Miss Alveda, from Richard Corsillo, and he says, do you recommend any specific MLK biography? Which do you think is the most accurate? Because obviously there's more than one biography.
No idea. There's so many of them. My mother has a book about the brothers in the struggle or something like that. Her book, A.D. and M.L. King, Two Brothers Who Dared to Dream. That's a nice one. And then the books directly about Martin Luther King himself. But then there are more books. His wife wrote a beautiful book. You know, Coretta King has a beautiful one. So I would suggest you definitely read hers.
I would say, yeah, why don't you read I agree, Alveda. I would read his wife's book.
I would read her book. I would.
Yeah. Okay. And then speaking of books, brothers and sisters, I have one here that Alveda wrote. And if you want to know about the King family, this is King Rules. And these are the 10 truths for you, your family, and our nation to prosper. It says, live the dream of A.D. King, Daddy King, and MLK. And this is available here at Priest for Life. You can go to our online store, prolifeproducts.org. Again, prolifeproducts.org. And we'd love to get you a copy of King Rules. Because this is like, I know, Alveda, you wrote this book and I've read it. But these are like, you said, this is the King family. These are the rules we live by. Yeah. And so, and another treat here, they're autographed by Miss Alveda. Something you won't get on Amazon. They're autographed by Miss Alveda. So anyway, if you want one, go to prolifeproducts.org. And this is a great way of really knowing, like she talks about here, the family tree, a word about names, make home a priority, serve the family, get a good education. These are just some of the chapters. Guard your heart, defend life, fight for justice, care for the needy, work for peace, and then find your joy. I think it's a great recommendation here of King Rules, available at prolifeproducts.org. And I know Alveda's a great book. And, you know, I think everyone would like to get a copy, right? Wouldn't you say? And then you are so busy. Your work here at Priest for Life, Civil Rights for the Unborn, keeps you very busy. Then we know you're a Fox News contributor. But you have a brand new program now on Fox Nation, right? Tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to show everyone a little clip from that. So tell us a little bit about your new program.
Well, we've got Alveda King's House on Fox Nation. We've got Pro-Life Praise variety show. And I've always had a dream and a desire to share many gifts that are in my life and to share with others. And somebody asked a minute ago, how can we heal? Well, we heal individually first, get our relationship right with God, and then forgive others and build upon that. So on Alveda King's House, we cook and sit around the table and kind of talk about issues. So, and then at the end, I usually try to, because I produce music and sing as well, and I try to put a few of those on there too. So it's got music, it has good friends and family.
Alveda, let's take a look. We have a little clip to give everyone a sample. So let's take a look at that now.
remember now, with Gigi's Home for the Holidays cookbook, what we want you to do is to add your flavor into your recipes, and we leave a lot of room for that. The third edition is out now and is Test Kitchen Favorites. One reason that I did a cookbook was because I would bake things. I'm a shake and pour cook, and so is my mother. In other words, you see all of these ingredients, we won't measure them. We'll just put them in according to taste. And I would make something, and then the next time it would taste different. And my kids kept saying, "Ma, do a cookbook so somebody else can cook it and remember what you did. What did you put in?" I said, "I don't know. I don't remember." So that's how Gigi's Home for the Holidays cookbook was born several years ago. And there are 3 editions now. So you can follow it, and you can see recipes from other members of our family in there.
All right. Well, there's just a sample. And I think there's a new show each month, right, Alveda?
Well, there are 6 shows. So we had Christmas in December, and then January, the one that's out now, the Martin Luther King show, the Black History show next month. Then we skip all the way over to Mother's Day with my mom, and that's exciting, and my 2 daughters. And then June, Father's Day and Juneteenth. And then the show number 6 will be next August. And we may begin to squeeze some others in. We don't know yet.
Okay, great. So again, brothers and sisters, if you want to catch Alveda's House, that beautiful program you just saw a little snip from, go to Fox Nation, and that's how you watch it. Now, also, the way you watch Janet here at 3:30 on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday is Pro-Life Praise with Alveda. So I hope everyone, really, they should tune in to us, Alveda, the whole week, Monday through Friday. It's Alveda and Janet. And believe me, Alveda would have taken another day, but she's so busy. She said, "All right, Janet, I'll do Wednesdays. That's it."
Yeah.
You know.
And somebody wanted to know, I did run for office. I was a state legislator for 2 terms and a presidential appointee twice. And to me, that was enough. I've got a 70th birthday this week, January 22nd. So I'm trying to help other people realize their dreams now. So I'm having fun doing that now.
You hear that? Our viewers, they want you to run for office again, Alveda. That's what they're asking.
Lord, no. No,
They're saying, this guy, Tony, he says she should run for mayor of Atlanta.
Oh, boy. That would be something, wouldn't it? Oh, boy.
Well, that would cause a lot of controversy. Now, someone else had asked a question earlier, and they asked if wasn't your uncle MLK a Republican? Do you have any knowledge?
He totally was not. He was an independent. Early on, I said he was a Republican, and it was a big mistake for me to do that. I went back, and I have published that over and over and over. He was an independent. And his reason was his daddy was a Republican until his granddaddy voted for President Kennedy, because President Kennedy helped get get Uncle Emil out of jail. But granddaddy was very conservative. So Martin Luther King Jr. was an independent. He said, because I may have to speak to either party. So no, I'm not going to select a party. He was independent.
Right. Well, that's a very important fact. See, you just said your uncle and your daddy were independents. Mm-hmm. Your granddaddy King was a Republican, right? Mm-hmm. But the 2 brothers decided to be independents because they knew they were going to go out to try to make changes. And I think what you just said is very smart. Your uncle said, "Well, I might have to talk to both sides at different times."
And he was able to do that. So,
And you know something? That's something people don't know about Father Frank Pavone. Father Frank Pavone is a registered independent. And for the very same reason, because Father Frank has always said, people say, "Oh, but Pavone, he backs the Republican Party." You know what he always says? He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, if the parties switch positions tomorrow, our teaching is the same. We want to stop baby killing." And so that's why he's always registered as an independent. Oh, and someone just asked where to get Gigi's cookbook. I believe that on Amazon we can get.
It's on Amazon. Gigi's Home for the Holidays cookbook. Yeah.
Yeah. Gigi's Home for the Holiday cookbook. That's amazing, right?
And alvedaking.com if you want to get that one autographed. alvedaking.com. We can autograph that book over there. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, once again, the King rules. You want to know the rules the King family lives by. This is a good idea. You get this book and you'll have the whole recipe here, right, Alveda, of the King family, your legacy, and really, what's in everyone's heart there from your family. So Do you know where other members of the family were today? Like who was downtown? Where was Bernice and Martin the Third? And do you know where everybody was today? Because
I
I know
really
everyone.
don't. I know Bernice was in Atlanta, cousin Angela, Aunt Christine, Mama was down there with them. That I
Right.
know, but I don't know where everybody else was. And the only reason I was at home, I had to do so many interviews, and it was on Zoom, Zoom and Facebook and all these things. So I was able to watch it and take care of all these interviews as
That's
well.
good. And now you just mentioned Anne Christine. Maybe our viewers don't realize that Anne Christine is Martin's sister. And how old is your Aunt Christine now?
She's about 92, 93
God
even.
bless.
Yeah,
God
and
bless
still
her.
going strong. Just beautiful, beautiful lady.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, Alveda, I really want to thank you for joining me today. All right. And I just want to say a tribute for a minute, because we just got word a few hours ago that Joe Scheidler, I think you remember him,
I
Alveda, Joe
do. I
Scheidler,
do.
he also was 93. He passed
Mhm.
away this morning. And he was
Mhm.
a great, great pro-life leader. And in one of my future programs, we're going to get some footage together and we're going to do a tribute to Joe Scheidler. But he passed away at home this morning. His whole family was gathered around him. Uh, what a
Beautiful.
what a beautiful tribute. He
Mhm.
had two priests there giving him the sacraments, and and he just died peacefully. Here's a picture of Joe Scheidler. Yeah, he
Just
he
beautiful.
his nickname was the Godfather of the pro-life movement. And every time I saw Joe, I used to say, "Hey, Godfather, how you doing?" And I have to say, he was so influential on me and Father Frank in the very early days, even before Priest for Life. When Father Frank was my parish priest, we read Joe Scheidler's book, Closed, 99 Ways to Bring an End to Abortion. It was
Wow.
like for us like a pro-life Bible. We studied it, and then we contacted Mr. Scheidler. And then when Father Frank became the first, full-time national director of Priest for Life in '93, one of the very first trips he made was to go to Chicago and meet Joe Scheidler and a whole bunch of other pro-lifers in the area to kind of get Father Frank up to speed of the movement. Here's a picture of old one from me and Joe Scheidler. There we go. Picture of Janet. Back when
Wow.
I gained weight. Oh my gosh, I don't like looking at that picture.
I know what you mean. I've lost some weight now, and I look at some of those pictures. I'm like, oh God.
I know,
Yeah.
but we do want to pray for Joe. Keep him in our prayers, and his family now, as they have to make the arrangements for his funeral amid COVID. You don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, ordinarily under normal circumstances, I would have jumped on a plane and went to Chicago to be up there. But obviously that's not going to happen. But everyone should keep Joe in your prayers. The pro-life group he headed up is called Pro-Life Action League. So you can go to prolifeaction.org, look them up, Google Joe's name, and pray for the family right now, because he was a great man, a great asset to the pro-life movement. So many of us do what we do because of
Mhm.
teachings and training that Joe gave us. So I just had to sneak that in because that was breaking news, so to speak,
For his
Alveda. Sad news
family.
to
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
but we
Mhm.
have another angel up in heaven with Henry Hyde and Nellie Gray and the Wilkies, Barbara and Jack Wilkie. So some of our, these icons that built the pro-life movement from the early '70s on are leaving us, but they're leaving such a legacy of teaching and training for us. So let's always remember the Scheidler family. Okay.
Amen.
So thank you,
Amen.
Alveda, for joining me. God bless you. And
Thank you,
go back to
Janet.
doing more interviews now. After you're off with me, I know
Oh Lord,
that's
I
when.
do have a few more. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for squeezing me in the list. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you for inviting me, and Happy New Year, everybody. And maybe one day you can tune in and see Janet and Alveda and Teresa cooking. I don't know, because they're great cooks too. So we're going to try to
All
get
right.
that done.
We'll
All
get
right.
that done. God
Bye.
bless, Alveda. Thanks.
Bye.
Well, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining me again on another episode here of Just Ask Janet. And again, keep the Scheidler family in your prayer. My heart is really breaking. We were very close to Joe Scheidler, and what an inspiration he was. So until next week, this is Janet Morana. Oh, until not next week, but till next time, this is Janet Morana on Just Ask Janet. Thanks, and God bless.